Smoke covered the sky. The ground was broken, burned, and soaked in blood. All around her the world was dying. Velari stood alone, her breathing heavy, her armor damaged. Her hands shook as she gripped her energy blade, now dim and cracked. She was the last one left. All her squadmates were gone. Some had fallen in the first attack. Others had been crushed under the enemy walkers, giant machines that walked like monsters, their metal claws tearing through everything. Velari's legs were weak. Her body was bleeding, her vision was blurry. But she didn't run. She was a soldier of the Thalari, one of the last defenders of her planet. She had sworn an oath to fight till the end. Even if she was alone, a sharp buzzing noise filled the air. From the black clouds above, more enemy drones began to descend. Their red eyes glowed as they locked onto her position. Velari tightened her grip on her blade. "Let them come," she whispered. She didn't expect to win. She didn't even expect to survive. But she would die on her feet. Suddenly, the buzzing stopped. A strange new sound echoed from the sky. A roar deep, loud, and powerful. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't one of the enemy's machines. Velari looked up. Something was breaking through the clouds, fast and on fire. It crashed into the ground nearby with a massive explosion, sending dirt and fire flying. Velari ducked behind a broken wall. As the shockwave hit her, then silence. The enemy drones hovered in confusion. They turned toward the new crash site. Velari peeked over the rubble, her heart racing. From the smoke and flames, a figure stepped out, tall, two-legged, broad-shouldered, clad in heavy black armor that hissed with steam. Not Thalari, not enemy. Human. Vela. R.I. single quotes. S eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. The humans had vanished decades ago. Everyone believed they were gone, destroyed in the Great Collapse. She had only heard stories. Stories of monsters, of warriors, of ghosts from the stars. But now, one was here. The human looked at her. Even through his helmet, she felt his stare. He raised a strange, weapon-sleek, glowing, deadly. Then he walked toward her. Step by step, calm and fearless, the enemy drones moved to intercept. They opened fire. The human didn't flinch. He moved fast, too fast. With trained precision, he raised his weapon and fired. Blue bolts cut through the air, hitting each drone with perfect accuracy. One by one, they exploded in the sky. Velari couldn't move. She was too stunned. In seconds, it was over. The battlefield fell silent again. The human reached her position and knelt beside her. His voice came through the helmet, deep and steady. "You fought well," he said. "But you're not alone anymore." Velari blinked. Her throat was dry. What are you?" He didn't answer right away. He offered her his hand. She looked at it, large, strong, human. "I'm Cole," he said simply. "Sergeant." "Earth." "Forces Earth?" she whispered. "But Earth is gone." "Not quite," he said. "We've been watching, waiting, and now we're back." Velari didn't know what to think. Her heart pounded. This didn't feel real, but the warmth in his hand, that was real. She took it. With a pull, he lifted her up. Her knees almost gave out, but he caught her. "Can you walk?" he asked. "Barely." "Then lean on me." Velari had never leaned on anyone before, but this human, this stranger, didn't feel like an enemy. He looked ahead at the smoking land. "We have a lot of work to do." She followed his gaze. The enemy walkers were returning. Bigger ones. More of them. Valet. I took a breath. Her energy blade buzzed weakly to life. "You should go," she said. "They'll kill you." Cole smiled beneath his helmet. "Let them try?" And with that, the human and the alien girl, two warriors from two broken worlds, walked toward the fire together, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as something new. Together. Dasterisk Vele. I had never leaned on anyone, not even in her childhood days, when her village was burned by raiders. She had learned to stand alone, fight alone, survive alone. But now, as her broken body leaned against the human soldier's side, something strange stirred inside her. Trust. She didn't even know his face, just his voice. Calm, steady, and firm. "Stay behind me," Cole said, scanning the horizon. With his glowing rifle, Valari wanted to ask 100 questions. Where did he come from? Why now? Was he even real? But there was no time. A loud shriek filled the air. From the scorched hills, mechanical beasts emerged, enemy walkers, crawling on metal limbs, their eyes glowing red with hatred. A dozen of them, each armed with plasma cannons that had wiped out entire armies. Valari's grip tightened on her blade. We can't win against that many. Cole looked at her, his voice steady. We don't need to win. We just need to survive. And then he ran not away, toward the enemy. Valari blinked in disbelief. He's insane, she muttered, but her feet followed him anyway. Cole's armor absorbed the first few shots as he rolled behind a destroyed hoverbike. He fired back. Each shot clean, efficient, deadly. His rifle wasn't alien tech, it was old, human-made, but somehow stronger, sharper, faster. Valari moved with him, her blade slicing through enemy scouts. She wasn't alone anymore, and strangely, her strength felt like it had returned, but in the chaos, she couldn't stop watching him. He didn't fight like her people. His style was brutal, efficient, no wasted movement, no fear, no hesitation. He took hits and kept going like a war machine with a human heart. One of the walkers closed in. Its cannon aimed straight at Valari. She froze. Then Cole was in front of her, pushing her to the ground, shielding her with his body. The cannon fired, a huge explosion. Valari screamed his name, but when the smoke cleared, he was still standing. His armor was scorched, smoke rising from his back, but he was alive. He turned to her. I said, I've got your back. Valari couldn't speak. Her throat tightened. Why? She finally asked. Why help me? Cole stared at the burning horizon for a moment before speaking. Because once, long ago, your people saved mine, he said. And I never forgot, Valari blinked. That was a myth. No one remembers. I do. The words hit her harder than any weapon. Behind them, more enemies began to swarm. Cole reached into his armor and pulled out a small device, round, metallic, and glowing blue. This is why I came, he said. To activate the old beacon? The one buried before your war ever started. A beacon? Valari asked. For what? For help, Cole replied. The kind you can't imagine? Before she could ask more, the beacon pulsed suddenly. The sky cracked and then the stars began to move. Valari stared upward as dozens of cloaked human warships started to unveil from the clouds, their shadows stretching across the battlefield like ancient giants waking from sleep. Her mouth fell open. What? What did you do? I told you, Cole said, reloading his weapon. You're not alone. Valari dropped to her knees, stunned. For the first time in her life, the battlefield didn't feel cold. It felt alive with hope. And beside her stood a man from the sky, her first real ally. The battlefield was quiet for now, but Valari's mind wasn't. She sat beside a cracked stone pillar, her back against it, trying to calm her racing heart. Across from her, the human Cole was checking his weapon, replacing the energy cells like it was second nature. He didn't speak much. He didn't boast, and that made him even more mysterious. Valari looked at his scarred armor, at the faded symbol on his shoulder, a broken earth surrounded by stars. She had seen that symbol once before on a page from an old book, buried deep in the ruins of her academy. The humans were not only real, they were returning. You move like you fought 1,000 battles, she said quietly. Cole glanced up. Maybe more. Lost most of them, too. She tilted her head. Then, why keep fighting? He paused, then answered. Because losing doesn't mean you're done. It just means you're not done yet. Valari felt something strange inside her chest. She wasn't used to words like these. Her commanders only spoke of orders, not purpose. Her people had grown cold after so many years of war. But this man, he still carried fire inside him. She stood up, limping a little. You said your people were asleep? Hidden? Cole nodded. Not asleep. Waiting. We scattered after the collapse, placed soldiers and ships in cryo across old zones. Just in case the universe still needed us. Valari narrowed her eyes. And who decided when to wake up? Cole looked her straight in the eye. I did. She was silent. That answer held weight. That meant he wasn't just a soldier, he was a leader, maybe more. Suddenly her ears twitched. Movement north side. They both ducked behind cover from the trees. A pack of alien mercenaries approached scavengers who worked for whoever paid most. Their weapons were loud, but their brains were small. Still, in her state, Valari knew she couldn't face them alone, but she wasn't alone now. Cole motioned to her. "I'll take the left." "You handle right?" She blinked. "You trust me already?" He smirked. "You stood your ground alone against death." "That's all I need to know." Something inside her tightened at those words. No one had ever said that to her, not even her own people. Together, they struck fast, silent like shadows, sharp like blades. Valari's strikes were graceful and precise, almost like a dance. Cole's moves were heavy and crushing like thunder. Their styles were nothing alike, and yet they fit. When the last enemy fell, Valari leaned against a tree, catching her breath. Cole wiped blood from his gauntlet. "You're better than any fighter I've seen in years." She looked at him. "And you're not what I expected." He raised an eyebrow. "What did you expect?" "A monster," she said. "A storybook ghost. A warmonger with no heart." Cole was quiet for a second, then said softly, "Some stories are true, but not all of them." She stared at him, this strange human with pain in his eyes and strength in his voice, a warrior who had come not to conquer, but to stand beside her. Maybe fate was real after all. Maybe this was more than survival. Maybe it was the start of something bigger. Vla extended her hand not as a soldier, but as an equal. "Then let's rewrite the story together." Cole smiled and shook her hand firmly, and just like that, an unlikely bond was formed. Not just a team, a strange alliance. They found shelter in the ruins of an ancient communications tower, half swallowed by vines and dust. The sun had started to fall, casting the shattered land in a golden, eerie light. Valari lit a dim plasma lamp, while Cole knelt before a cracked terminal hidden under stone and moss. Valari watched him work in silence. There was something different in the way he touched the old machine. He wasn't just activating tech, he was awakening a memory. Finally, she spoke. "You said this is why you came." "To find this place." Cole didn't look up. "Not just to find it. To finish what was started." Valari crossed her arms. "Started? By who?" Cole paused. Then he looked at her with something ancient in his eyes. "By us. By humans. A long time ago, before the fall." He pulled a metal object from his chest pocket, a small sphere glowing faintly blue. He placed it gently on the terminal. The machine hummed. Valari stepped closer, whispering, "What is that?" "A beacon core," Cole said. "It holds the signal of old Earth, one we built in secret, deep under enemy lines. It was meant to send a call to every surviving human. When the time was right," Valari's voice trembled. "But that was ages ago? You were all gone." Cole's voice dropped low. Double quotes. "No, we were waiting." The beacon pulsed. And then the walls shook. Valari gasped as hidden lights in the floor lit up in a pattern. The console buzzed to life, and above them a hologram flickered, a star map, filled with glowing human cryopods, spread across the galaxy like sleeping stars. Thousands of them. Maybe millions. Valari's mouth hung open. I don't understand. Why didn't you return earlier?" Cole looked away, as if burdened by guilt. "Because we lost faith. We didn't think there was anything left worth saving, not until now." She turned to him slowly. "And what changed?" "You." Valari froze. Cole stepped forward. "You stood when your people broke. You fought when others fled. You were alone, and still didn't fall." He reached up and placed his palm on the glowing star map. "That's the kind of fire humanity was waiting for. Not power, purpose." Valari felt her chest tighten. No one had ever seen her like this before, not her commanders, not her kin. And now this stranger, this human, saw everything she tried to bury. The beacon's core glowed brighter. Cole's voice softened. "When this beacon finishes charging, it will send out a pulse to every buried human vault in this sector. Ships, soldiers, knowledge, all of it." Valari stepped back. "You'll bring them all here?" "That's the plan." She shook her head. That could change everything. The balance, the politics, my people won't know how to handle this. Cole gave her a sad smile. Neither will mine. But doing nothing means we all keep dying alone. Villari stood in silence, her heart pounding. Could this really be happening? Could the lost humans truly return? Not as destroyers, but as allies? But something else bothered her. Cole. She said carefully, "Why were you the one who woke up first?" His eyes darkened. "I didn't wake up," he said quietly. "I never went to sleep." Villari froze. He continued, voice heavy. "I stayed awake for 50 years, alone in deep orbit, watching this world, guarding this beacon, waiting for a sign that someone still believed in something." She swallowed hard. "And when you saw me, standing alone, I knew it was time." The beacon gave one final pulse louder than before. The signal was sent. Across the sky, stars shimmered, somewhere out there. The human army was waking up. I looked at Cole not with fear, but with awe, and maybe something deeper. A world once lost was now stirring again, and it all began because one human believed. For years the enemy had ruled the skies. Their ships hovered like gods. Their machines crushed anyone who dared resist. Planets burned, voices went silent, but today, something changed. High above Villari's world, the stars were no longer still. One by one, massive shadows began to take shape in orbit. Not enemy craft, but human warships, ancient, armored, and silent. Until now, Villari and Cole stood on the rooftop of the old tower, staring up into the shifting sky. The beacon's signal had worked. "Those are yours?" Villari whispered. Cole nodded slowly. "Some of them. The rest are answering the call." Villari could feel the change in the air. The fear that once haunted her chest had now jumped to the other side. Far across the plains, the enemy, Commander Zorthvecker, received the signal on his dreadnought. The beacon's pulse had reached his screens, and with it human energy signatures. Hundreds of them. His claws twitched. "This is not possible," he growled. "Sir, incoming dropships." One of his lieutenants cried. "Human-class assault pods. They're waking up from inside our territory." Panic spread for decades. The enemy believed the humans were extinct, myths, ghosts, but now the ghosts had teeth, and they were angry. On the ground, Villari watched as human pods slammed into the soil like meteors, opening with steam and fire. Soldiers in strange armor stepped out, tall, quiet, alert. Not reckless like the enemy. Not cold like her people. Focused, disciplined, awake. One human walked toward Cole and saluted sharply. "Captain Cole, Cryo Squad Gamma, reporting. Sector. Ready for combat." Villari blinked. "Captain?" Cole sighed. "I didn't want to lead again, but they still follow me." Villari looked at him with new eyes. He wasn't just a soldier or a survivor. He was their legend. Across the horizon, the enemy mechs began retreating. They didn't wait for orders. For the first time, they didn't attack. They ran. Villari had never seen it before. She looked up at Cole. "They're scared." He gave a slow nod. "Good." But just then, boom! An explosion rocked the tower. A huge shadow blocked the sun. Zorthvecker himself had descended in his personal battle tank. He wasn't running. He was coming for Cole. Villari raised her blade. "He's mine," but Cole put a hand on her shoulder. "No, ours." They leaped from the rooftop together, landing hard but steady. Side by side, enemy troops swarmed, but this time Villari wasn't surrounded. She was surrounded by allies. Human and alien, fighting together. Cole shouted to his soldiers, "Form up! Protect the beacon! No mercy!" Villari's heart thundered. She was no longer the last spark of a dying world. She was now part of a firestorm that would reclaim it. Blades clashed. Guns roared. Zorth charged forward, his armor massive, his voice full of hatred. "You should have stayed extinct," Cole grinned under his helmet. "You should have stayed arrogant." And with one final shout, Cole and Villari attacked in unison. The tide of war had turned. The enemy no longer felt powerful. Now they felt fear. Smoke danced in the air like ghosts of the fallen. Fires burned where soldiers had clashed. and in the middle of the broken land stood Valari, her blade dripping, her breath shallow, her legs trembling, but she didn't fall, not yet. Beside her, Captain Cole knelt, wounded. His chest armor was shattered, blood trailing from his side. Still, he aimed his rifle at the burning wreck of Zorthvecker's war machine. Just in case, the enemy commander was dead, but the cost had been high. More enemy reinforcements were on the way. Too many. Valari could hear the Cum's human voices reporting heavy movement from the south ridge. The beacon was safe, but if they stayed, they'd be surrounded again. She looked at Cole. You need to go. Take the beacon and fall back. Cole shook his head. Not without you. She tried to smile, even though her lips were cracked and bloody. You're stubborn. He reached out, gripping her hand. And you're not just a soldier anymore, you're hope. Her heart clenched. She had trained her whole life to die in battle. She never thought she'd live long enough to matter, and no, this human was looking at her like she was irreplaceable. Suddenly, an enemy shot rang out. It wasn't aimed at Cole. It was aimed at the beacon core, strapped to his side. Valari didn't think. She moved. Fast. Too fast. She dove in front of him, taking the full shot to her back. Everything slowed. Cole's eyes widened. Valari! She collapsed in his arms, coughing, her body shaking. The shot had pierced her armor clean. Blood was spreading fast. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't you dare, Cole growled. You don't get to apologize. He pulled out a stim pack, trying to stop the bleeding, but it was too late. I'm just tired, Valari said weakly. So tired of being alone. Cole's voice broke. You're not alone. Not now. Not ever again, she smiled faintly. Then, I can rest. No, he said fiercely, lifting her in his arms. You can live. He carried her through the fire, through gunfire and chaos, his body screaming in pain, but he didn't stop. Behind him, his soldiers covered the retreat. Above them, more human ships were descending, lighting up the sky with hope. By the time they reached the evac point, Valari was barely breathing. Medics rushed in, working quickly. Cole never left her side. Even when they told him she might not make it, he held her hand tightly and whispered, You don't get to leave me now. You're the reason I came back? In her unconscious state, her fingers curled slightly around his. Hours passed. In a medical pod aboard a human cruiser. Machines beeped softly. Valari's eyes fluttered open. Cole was sitting beside her, dirty, bruised and still armored, but awake. Waiting. She tried to speak, but he leaned in, smiling with glassy eyes. You did it. You're still here. Valari stared at the ceiling, then at him. Softly, she said, Is the war over? He took her hand. No, but now, we can win. For the first time in her life, she believed that. Her final stand hadn't been the end. It was a new beginning, not just for her, but for all of them. Weeks passed since the battle ended. Valari sat beneath the twin moons of her homeworld, a soft blanket around her shoulders. Her back still ached. Scars marked her skin, but her heart felt whole for the first time. Across the field, human engineers worked with Thalari builders to rebuild the broken towers. Human and alien children laughed as they played in the mud. Not knowing the world had almost ended, peace was no longer a dream. It had a name. Hope. She turned her head when she heard the sound of boots behind her. Heavy, familiar. Cole. Still in partial armor, still carrying his sidearm, but cleaner now. He had a small smile on his face. You're not used to sitting still, he said. Valari chuckled softly. My body isn't used to moving yet. The healer said I should rest. Cole sat beside her, close but not too close. You've earned that rest. They sat in silence for a moment. The wind was gentle. The stars above were brighter than they used to be, or maybe they just looked brighter now that the darkness was lifting. Finally, Valari asked, The war front has shifted. Your fleet is leaving for the eastern colonies. Why are you still here? Cole looked out across the horizon, then back at her. I've fought for many planets, he said. But this is the first one that made me want to stay. Valari's breath caught in her throat. I thought you were only here for the beacon, she said quietly. I was, he admitted. But then I found something more valuable than any signal, any mission. He looked at her soft, strong, steady. I found you. Vilari looked away, her cheeks warming. She had faced death, fought monsters, stood against impossible odds. But nothing made her heart race like this human's voice. She smiled. You know, my people don't really do attachments. He grinned. Humans do. Big ones, she laughed. I noticed. Silence fell again, but this time it was peaceful. Comfortable. Double quotes. I thought I would die alone, she said softly. Now I can't imagine facing the future without you beside me. You won't have to, he replied, and she believed him. Behind. The banners rose half human, half Thalari, a new alliance. Not of politics, but of shared blood, shared loss, and a future they would shape together. Cole stood and offered his hand once again, like he did on the battlefield long ago. This time, Vilari took it without hesitation. Together, they walked into the dawn of a new era. Not just as soldier and survivor. Not even just as allies, but as the first bond of something greater. Two hearts, one war, one future.